There are few things that work for me more than passionate creative people talking about what drives them. It's why I really enjoy channels like Archipel. It's why I don't mind that Mark Cerny got up on a fake stage and dug so far into the minutiae of the PS5 architecture that he pulled up a bunch of charts on the human ear. It's what this channel is, and more importantly for today, it's Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken's central thesis. Perhaps most effectively conveyed in episode 7 titled, I Have to Do It For Myself. Of all the creative kids who populate the cast of the film club, that totally isn't an anime production team, I probably vibe with Asakusa the most. World design, after all, is something I obsess over. However, the star of this episode isn't the socially awkward director/gremlin, but the animator Mizusaki. We open up with Mizusaki laying in bed with only her face exposed from under the covers that is quite literally and metaphorically lit up by her tablet. She's staying up late to work on the anime the club is producing, hiding her actions from her parents who are pushing her into modeling and acting. By this point, we know the crew well enough and how much Mizusaki loves animation. But we've yet to witness the seed of such, though that changes upon a flashback to her childhood and a seminal memory is revealed. Young Mizusaki drinks tea when her grandmother, in a fluid series of motions, splashes her last couple sips out in the yard oh so elegantly. Mizusaki is fascinated by the movement, trying and failing to emulate the trick. She fixates on the way the beverage swirls in the cup, how her grandmother flings a beautiful arc of green liquid through the air as if each individual droplet was masterfully placed. Sometime later, Mizusaki is attending dance class. Not just the type that's a place for kids to burn off energy, but to study dance. Like with the tea trick, she struggles, but is ever observant, sitting off to the side with a pencil and paper, analyzing every movement of her teacher and classmates, going home at night and doing the same with what she watches on TV, eventually coming back to the tea and through this obsession begins to understand and copy, even using this knowledge to help her aging grandmother to get around the house. Like with Asakusa's first time watching Future Boy Conan, these are the moments that come to define Mizusaki's creative spirit. The fire that lights up inside with such a passion is something most anyone can relate to, because we've all likely had that experience with anime or some other form of media. For me, it was 1998 when, for my 7th birthday, my grandma took me out shopping and told me to grab any game I wanted. With my brother's urging, I set my eyes upon The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Returning to my grandmother's, we booted up the N64 and dove in, with the foolish goal of trying to find the fishing pond my brother had heard about from a friend. Running around Kokiri Forest, we were dead set on reaching the secluded area of the map where the Great Deku Tree stood, which we wrongly assumed had to be our fishing pond goal. Hours later, after diving deeper and deeper into the giant foreboding flora, we eventually stepped outside the small chunk of the world that already felt so vast and into the wonderment of Hyrule Field. This encounter with Ocarina of Time turned me from a kid who liked video games like any other child of the 90s to someone enraptured with a grand scale of possibility for games to be portals to entirely new worlds. And I think it's important to never stop being that inspired kid, even if you're not always in a position to act. For example, I've recently been playing through Lost Odyssey for the first time. The environment and character design of the funeral scene so strongly conveys a specific little chunk of that world's culture in a way that made me say, I should really dig into Unity or Unreal one of these days. Eizouken's passion for world creation through anime is never more mesmerizing than during the cooperative flights of fancy. These are the scenes in which the imaginations of predominantly Asakusa and Mizusaki take over and transport the girls into an alternate world. One where their creativity spitballs in a gorgeous watercolor aesthetic and often fluid animation. All sorts of locales, creatures, mecha designs, and so on populate these surrealist adventures. And you feel like you're being guided through by those creating as they craft the space around them. With every new encounter and further exploration of their city, they mold new ideas. Whether that be simply spending a stormy afternoon at a bathhouse, leading Mizusaki to intently observing the way a bucket of water Kanamori splashes over Asakusa's face, or what the city might transform into during a flood. Such makes the moments where we get the usual antics at the studio or one of Kanamori's schemes all the more potent, because there's a clear goal they're all working towards, and that's to express themselves. This anime is a wondrous example of what it's like to create with a group, and brings what would otherwise be a rather static show to life. Science Saru, as creatively led by Masaki Yuasa, cannot be praised enough for this. In the hands of most other studios, I think we'd have a far drier and flatter anime. Encounters where the actual process of producing an anime come into focus aren't overly in-depth, but are reminiscent of Shirobako or Bakuman, though on a less professional scale. They're more so focused on the technique rather than the industries. I particularly like in episode 7 where we see the clash of creative styles between Eizouken and the art club who have been contracted to help out on the backgrounds. What works in landscape painting doesn't necessarily hold true for anime. It's a small moment that shines a light on the hoops and hurdles production teams face when it comes to creating the many aspects of a work that can seem disparate at times, but need to be in unison every bit of the way. Little methods like how otaku silence music while poring over a piece of animation in order to purely get the feel of said animation go to show that the team creating Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken know this feeling. Science Saru is a studio that has a distinct personality, and while I don't really care to go full auteur theory, Yuasa is clearly a major factor there. Last month I had the good fortune to catch Ride Your Wave in theaters. It's their latest film and quite enjoyable in its own right. After the credits rolled, there was an interesting little interview with studio co-founder and producer Eun Choi, who by the way is a worthwhile follow on Twitter as she's pretty open about the creative process at Science Saru, providing insight into an industry that can be difficult for us Westerners to get such clear-cut info on. She spoke to how a relatively young studio has been taking on a lot of work relative to their size. The reason being to not only ensure a steady stream of projects, but to provide opportunity for the staff to prove themselves. Typically, key roles for TV anime like Eizouken or Devilman Crybaby are given over to younger members of the team. Even though much of the output of the studio eventually goes through Yuasa, they encourage their team to speak their minds and take on new responsibilities. Then when it comes time for a film like Ride Your Wave or The Night is Short Walk On Girl, those that have succeeded on the TV level are given more opportunity with the bigger productions that come with producing an animated film. It gives the impression that Science Saru, though a professional studio of great renown, still taps into that youthful and inexperienced passion we see in the cast of Eizouken. As the episode closes out, we shift back to Mizusaki as she explains to the anime indifferent Kanamori why animation means so much to her. That even a non-discerning eye still understands the beauty of motion. The way a goldfish's tail swirls in water, cherry blossom petals floating in the air, dancing. Animation is how animators express their love of movement, how every millimeter is intentionally put in place by an artist to specifically express an idea. That animation is a science to them, in the same way a mechanical engineer may take something apart because they're curious to see how it works. Animators understand the world through the study of motion and what they put on screen. And it's this message that makes Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken so resonant. It's the team of Science Saru adapting the voice of manga author and Minecraft streamer Sumito Awara and stating in conjunction why they create, why anime is the path they've dedicated their lives to. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to quickly ask a favor here, and that is to, if you have the ability, if you're a part of a community out there that may be interested in my videos, really, if you could consider sharing those with those communities, that would be super helpful right now. With things the way they are, money's rather tight, so even if you aren't able to donate to my Patreon, sharing this around and helping me get more subscribers and get just more views in general really helps the channel. And if you are able to donate $1 a month, it gets you access to some bonus posts where I talk about things like what I'm reading or some other anime I'm watching that aren't really video worthy. So for all those who have done so, thank you very much.